Hey now, today I am pressure racking 3 carboys of brown ale off of the yeast cake. So these guys are completely done fermenting. I do primary, secondary, whatever, all in the same vessel. So they've already hit terminal gravity. And what I'm doing is just transferring them into these kegs that are down here. These have already been sanitized. I pressure racked Star San in and out of each of these kegs, so they're all good to go. I've actually already transferred the first one here. Now it's a pretty simple system, and what I've got here is just one of these carboy hoods. Everything's all sanitized here, is why I'm all wet. So I've got one of these carboy hoods, and I have a stainless steel racking cane. It was just stainless steel pipe that I bent to create just like a racking cane shape. It goes through the larger hole, and then on the second hole I just have my carbon dioxide gas line with some silicone hose at the end of that, just because that slides over the carboy hood really nicely. And everything was sanitized, set up like this. And then you, with your keg, as you'll see here on the second one here right away, all you have to do is pop your pressure release valve, hook everything up, and give it just a little bit of pressure. Okay, now since I've already done the first one, I'm just going to move to the second here, so you'll get to see that one in action. So I'm going to just remove that hood and the thermal well that was in it. So I'm going to set this one in here. Pop that on just like so. I've already sanitized the outside of these kegs, and all I did was just take the Star San and I just spray over the fittings. Before I hook anything up though, I'm going to make sure to crack that because there was still pressure from when I was pushing the Star San out. I'm going to hook up my liquid quick disconnect onto the liquid post. This is all hooked up now, and now I'm just going to turn on my gas, and I don't give it much, maybe 2 to 3 pounds of pressure, just until I can hear things going. And as you'll see here, it then pushes the beer, because the pressure is building in the carboy, which then pushes the beer down and out through here. So I've got the actual racking cane probably 6 inches or so off the bottom of this. And if you come over here and take a peek, you can just see how the beer level was here, and now it is dropping, just like so. So I'm just going to clear a little bit of the stuff out of the way so you can have a little bit better look here in a second. So we're not quite halfway here, transferring this now. I kind of got some of the stuff out of the way just to give a bit better of view here. The really nice thing about doing this is you're eliminating the possibility to oxidize your beer. Before I started to do this, for a couple of years I was using like the auto siphon, but still when you're doing that you're introducing oxygen into the system, and you can quite possibly oxidize your beer and drastically reduce the shelf life and even create oxidized off flavors, papery flavors, cardboard tasting compounds, stuff like that. This eliminates all of that because the keg itself was sanitized, and then the Star San was pushed out with CO2, so it was a CO2 environment there. This here, I popped the cap off, and then immediately it's CO2 going in there, so you're eliminating that oxidation from your beer. So it's just one more way to ensure a higher quality finished product for yourself that you'll enjoy and can be proud of. So I'm just going to let this one drain here, and we'll move it over to the next one. So we're nearing the bottom of this one. I'm just now going to tip very gently the carboy towards the end where I've got the racking cane end sitting, and I'm just going slowly to minimize as much as possible any kind of flowing of the slurry. If you look at the line here, it's still really clear. No problem with sediment pickup or anything like that, which is fantastic. I'm going to just keep an eye here on the bottom. And it's starting to kind of near the end. You can just hear on the keg that any of that foam from the Star San that was still in that keg is pushing out the relief valve there. I'm just going to cut the gas now, and I don't do it by turning off the gas and actual regulator, the shut-off valve on the gas tank, because if you do that, then it'll still give a big push of gas in there, and I don't want any extra, so I just turned off the, dialed back the pressure on this. And letting it go a little bit more here, also kind of keeping an eye on this hose to make sure that it's not getting hazy or sediment laden beer. Okay, that's probably about good there without risking picking up any stuff that I don't want. I'm gonna do this, and then I will just pick this up and let any beer drain into that carboy. Now we can close this up. I just sanitized this before we started shooting this clip, so I'll transfer over. I'm not going to push on yet. There we go. Make sure any gas is out of there. I'll push this on. And remove the hood from my last carboy. And now, very carefully, not touching anything, of course, put this in here. I'll lift it up just a little bit. There we go, a few inches. And time to start again. Just turning the gas on a little bit here, and if you look up here, you'll see when it starts to come out. As the pressure builds, oh, and we have beer again, and it's nice and clear. One of the many nice things about leaving everything in primary, your primary vessel until fermentation is done, is that everything will settle out. So I have this thing on heat. Normally I had this ramped all the way up to 72 Fahrenheit just to wrap up the fermentation. Then I killed the temperature, let it settle down. My basement's sitting around 61 Fahrenheit right now. So the temperature controllers, which I removed just before starting this video, were telling me that the beer was at 61. So a lot of the yeast had already settled out, obviously based on that clarity. If you take a look at the gas line here, so all I did was remove the gas quick disconnect from the backflow valve here, the check valve, and I just have, this is a swivel nut with a union on it, 1/4 inch union flare that just screws right in, just like it's the same fitting as this essentially, so it just fits right in there. And then when I'm done all this, I can just spin that off, fire the gas quick disconnect back on, and this tank's good to carbonate beers, transfer from keg to keg, whatever I want to do. So we're just going to let this go a little bit here. I've got the tape on this silicone hose here on the liquid line, and that's really just to help. I've never, before I started to tape it, I never had an issue where any beer did actually try to come out here and flow back, but I just figured it was a good way to make sure that if I bump this or something, I'm not going to accidentally tear that off. Same thing here on this end, and then I guess the only other thing to point out is at the end of my liquid line, again, swivel nut, and then of course a liquid quick disconnect. So there's that. We'll take a peek here when we're nearing the end of this transfer. Just nearing the end of the final carboy. And yeah, another few seconds and then I'll call it. Sacrifice a half pint of beer for easier time with clarification. A little less work for the gelatin to do. And touch more. This is the dividing line between good beer and greed. How far to go? We're calling it. Right, just let that drain down. I will return that leaf valve to where it should be. Disconnect that. Just going to make sure to have everything sprayed down with Star San, just because. And then, simply because I was mentioning it before, so this is the gas line. Just disconnect it there. See, so it's the swivel nut with the union coupler there. Right? And then, just so this gets to resume normal function, I'll just return the gas quick disconnect to this and just tighten slightly. So there you have it. I just need to label up my last keg and get this all cleaned out here. 90% of brewing is dishes, right? So there we are. Yeah, so a sweet way to transfer beer, minimizing oxidation, and hopefully resulting in the best product you can possibly make. So, till next time, folks, keep your beer at 11.